Australian couch potatoes have a love affair with video streaming, with Netflix leading the battle for the remote. The international giant is reported to have spent $12 billion on content this year, but the total invested in Australian-made streaming content was just $40 million. Australian producers say the only way to compete is to force the global streamers to spend a mandated amount on local production. Rachel Pupazzoni reports.
We've got the stories and we've got the incredible talent.
We have some of the most gifted creators and storytellers here. Why not push the money into that?
The Sydney Opera House was the stage last night. In the spotlight, Nine-owned streaming service Stan launched 4 Australian-made originals.
Every time we've launched an original production here in Australia, the numbers have got better and better. Aussies are telling us they love it.
And Aussies love streaming. A Roy Morgan poll says about 14 million Australians have access to subscription video on demand, such as Netflix and Disney+. Last year, Stan grew its audience by 42% to almost 3 million people. But while Australian free-to-air networks and Foxtel have a quota to create Australian content, streamers like Stan do not.
They're dropping 4 new Australian shows, which is incredible. I mean, Netflix aren't doing that, Disney Plus isn't doing it.
And it's not just about filling quotas, it's about actually dedicating your time and services to creating new original content.
Emmy Award-winning producer Marcus Gillizo wants a mandated minimum spend from streamers in Australia.
Prescribing what those streamers should be commissioning, that it has to be set in Australia and, I don't know, it's got to have a crocodile in it. I'm not sure that would work. I think a minimum expenditure does work.
There are already incentives to create film and TV in Australia. Hundreds of millions of dollars in tax offsets are up for grabs each year to encourage locally produced content. Screen Australia says almost $1.2 billion was spent on drama production in Australia last financial year. But the spend on streaming drama was just $40 million, down 25% on the year before, and just a tiny fraction of the amount spent by the big global streamers. Some of the biggest names in streaming spent a combined $25 billion on original content this year, and that figure is expected to increase next year.
That's a kind of, I guess you call it like a gold rush or a mining boom. And it's something that Australian production companies in the screen sector needs to be a part of, and we need to be a part of it now.
The Australian Competition and Consumer Commission has told the government more regulation is needed.
We'll come back with a full response. I expect that'll be by the end of the year or early next year at the latest.
Australian content is getting onto streaming platforms, but the challenge is to sort of pivot towards the new reality, and also to ensure that those streaming platforms understand that there's a wealth of creative talent here for them to tap into.
Which Marcus Gillizo hopes will mean the pilgrimage to Los Angeles comes to an end.
For Australian production companies, it still requires going to the US, but hopefully we can actually start to attract those streamers to come here and look for those projects.